I'm a hospice nurse who has been in this field for many years, and over time I've witnessed a common pattern. Well-intentioned words that instead of bringing comfort end up making those at the end of life feel more alone. Facing death is deeply uncomfortable, not just for the person going through it, but for those around them as well. We often feel the urge to say something, anything, to make it better, but not everything we say is actually helpful. In today's video, I want to talk about the kinds of things we often say to someone who is dying that may come off as hurtful or dismissive, even if we don't mean them that way. This isn't about blame, it's about learning how to show up with more honesty, compassion, and presence. One of the most painful things I've witnessed throughout my years in hospice care is how easy it is, without meaning to say something that unintentionally wounds the very person we're trying to comfort. Time and time again, I've heard people, often with love in their hearts and panic in their eyes, say things like, "You're going to beat this, don't give up. I know someone who had the same cancer and they lived 10 more years," or "Miracles happen, just keep fighting." These are phrases we're all familiar with. We've heard them in movies, in hospital rooms, maybe even from our own mouths when we didn't know what else to say. But I can tell you from experience, these words, while well-intentioned, can cut deeper than we realize. Let me tell you a story that has stayed with me. I once cared for a woman in her 40s, a mother of 2, living with end-stage cancer. She had chosen hospice care because she wanted her final days to be about peace, not procedures. She was remarkably open about her journey, raw, honest, and brave in the way she spoke about death. One evening, after she shared a tender video about preparing her children for goodbye, she showed me a comment someone left. "You're such a fighter. I just know you're going to pull through. Don't give up now." She read it out loud, slowly. Then she looked at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wish they understood I'm not giving up. I'm letting go with love." There was no anger in her voice, just sadness. The comment, though written from a place of affection, failed to meet her where she was. It denied the truth she had fought so hard to accept. In that moment, it wasn't hope she needed. It was recognition. It was presence. It was someone who could sit beside her and say, "This is hard, I'm here." This isn't an isolated experience. I've seen it again and again. People pushing hope in the form of unrealistic expectations, thinking it will offer comfort, when what it often does is leave the dying person feeling unseen and unheard. When someone is facing the end of life, comments that center on surviving at all costs or miraculous turnarounds can feel more like pressure than encouragement. They can unintentionally suggest that if the person dies, it's because they didn't fight hard enough. And that is simply not true. We need to redefine what hope means at the end of life. Hope doesn't have to die when a cure is no longer possible. In fact, this is when hope becomes even more meaningful. But it changes shape. Hope might now mean the hope for a pain-free day. Hope to say goodbye well. Hope to be surrounded by family, to find spiritual peace, to be held while sleeping. That's real. That's sacred. So rather than reaching for words that try to fix or erase the inevitable, I encourage you to lean into the discomfort. Listen more than you speak. Let silence be okay. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say is simply, "I don't know what to say, but I'm here with you," or "Thank you for trusting me with your story. I want to walk with you through this, whatever it looks like." When we release the need to cheer up someone who is dying, we make space for something far more powerful: connection. And in the next part of this video, I'll share how we can offer that connection through simple, honest, and compassionate presence. Because showing up, truly showing up, is what matters most. So why is it that these kinds of comments, so often said with love, can feel so deeply hurtful? Because even when the intention is good, the impact can be profoundly isolating. When someone is facing the end of life and has made peace, or is trying to, with the reality of their condition, telling them to keep fighting or that miracles happen can sound less like comfort and more like denial. It can feel as though we're asking them to turn away from their own truth, to ignore what they've already had to work so hard to accept. Imagine what that's like, to summon the courage to speak openly about your own dying, only to be met with words that suggest you shouldn't be speaking about it at all, that your truth is too uncomfortable for others to hear, that the only acceptable narrative is one of survival, no matter the cost. That's not support, that's erasure. What many people don't realize is that these so-called encouraging statements can leave the person who's dying feeling more alone than ever. It sends a message, intentional or not, that we are not ready for them to die, and therefore they must pretend as though they aren't dying. It shifts the emotional labor back onto them. Now they feel like they have to protect us from their reality, from their grief, from their honesty, and that's a heavy burden to place on someone already navigating the most vulnerable chapter of their life. I've sat at too many bedsides where patients have confided in me, "I can't be real with my family. Every time I try, they tell me not to talk like that, and so they stop talking. They pull inward, not because they want to, but because they don't feel safe being honest anymore." And that's what we need to understand. When we respond to dying with forced positivity or denial, we close the door on meaningful connection. We lose the chance to say the things that matter. We rob them and ourselves of the intimacy that can only come when we're willing to face this together, honestly. That's why redefining what support looks like in these moments is so crucial. In the next part of this conversation, we'll talk about what you can say. Not grand speeches, not perfect words. Just simple, grounded presence, words that meet the moment and honor the truth of where someone really is. So what should we say instead? The truth is, there's no perfect script, no magic sentence that can erase someone's pain or fear, but there are words and ways of being that can offer comfort, dignity, and presence in a moment that feels unbearably heavy. Instead of trying to fix, solve, or reframe what the person is going through, try honoring it. A simple, heartfelt, "Thank you for sharing your journey with us," can carry more meaning than a dozen hollow reassurances. It says, "I see you, I hear you, and I value what you're offering, even in the face of something so difficult." Or, "I'm here to listen whenever you need me." This tells them that they don't have to perform strength or positivity for your sake, that they don't have to protect you from their sadness, that you're strong enough to sit with them in it. Even admitting, "I don't know what to say, but I want to be with you," can be one of the most powerful gestures you can offer, because it's honest. It makes space for silence, for uncertainty, for grief, and those are all things that the dying person is already carrying. You're simply stepping into that space with them, gently, without trying to change it. I've had moments where patients have told me, "I just want someone to be near me, not talk, just sit." And when I've done exactly that, sat with them quietly, maybe holding their hand, maybe just breathing beside them, I've watched their entire body soften, because they felt held, not in words, but in presence. Sometimes a patient will say something like, "I feel so tired, I don't know how much more I can do," and all they need to hear back is, "I understand." That must feel incredibly heavy. You don't need to turn it into a pep talk. You don't need to pull them out of it. Just be there. What most people are truly longing for at the end of life is not advice. It's not motivation. It's witnessing. They want to be able to say, "This is what it feels like to die," and have someone respond, not with discomfort or denial, but with stillness, compassion, and the kind of love that doesn't try to fix what can't be fixed. In the next part of this video, I'll talk more about how we can offer that kind of love. It doesn't take training, it doesn't require the perfect words. All it takes is your willingness to show up, open, grounded, and real. That alone can mean everything. So how do we offer that kind of love? The kind that doesn't try to fix, but simply stays. First, we have to let go of the belief that our value in these moments comes from saying the right thing. In fact, when someone is dying, your words often matter far less than your presence. What they'll remember, what their loved ones will remember, is that you were there, that you didn't turn away, that you didn't rush to fill the silence or offer easy answers to impossible questions. Being present in this way takes courage. It means stepping into discomfort, into grief, into helplessness, and staying there. But it's in that staying that love becomes tangible. Sometimes offering this kind of love looks like sitting quietly at their bedside, watching the light shift across the room while they sleep. Sometimes it's holding their hand during the pauses between sentences when they're too tired to finish a thought. Sometimes it's making them their favorite meal, even if they only take one bite. It's in the little things, the things that say, "You are not alone." It also means listening deeply, not just to their words, but to the emotions behind them. If they say, "I'm scared," you don't need to reply with, "Don't be." You can simply say, "I'm here, and I'm scared too." If they say, "I don't want to go yet," you don't need to counter with, "You're strong, you'll make it." You can say, "I know, I wish this wasn't happening either." This is what it means to meet someone where they are. Not where we wish they were, not where we feel more comfortable, but exactly where they are. In the mess, in the pain, in the uncertainty. That is real love. It doesn't look away. And yes, it's hard. We live in a culture that fears death and idolizes positivity. We're taught to comfort with cliches, to fix what's broken, to brighten what feels dark. But death is not something to be brightened. It is something to be honored. And the most powerful way to honor it is to stay close, heart open, without rushing toward resolution. So if you're sitting with someone at the end of their life and you find yourself thinking, "I don't know what to do," I want you to remember this. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be. And being is enough. Here's the heart of it. The message I come back to again and again, both as a nurse and as a human being. Hope is not about living forever. It's about living fully, even and especially when time is short. It's about being present to each moment, each conversation, each breath. It's about helping someone feel seen and loved, not because we believe they'll survive, but because we value their life exactly as it is, right now. We often confuse hope with the absence of death, but real hope lives inside death. It lives in the way someone says goodbye on their own terms. It lives in the way we hold space for their truth. It lives in soft light, quiet rooms, long silences that don't need to be filled. That's why advice, unless it's asked for, is rarely helpful in these moments. When we offer advice, we shift the focus away from them and onto our own discomfort. We try to soothe ourselves by problem-solving their pain. But death isn't a problem to be solved, it's an experience to be witnessed. A sacred one, a human one. So listen. Listen without fixing. Listen without correcting. Listen without waiting for your turn to speak. If they want to talk about fear, let them. If they want to talk about what they'll miss, or who they wish they had more time with, or what they regret, let them. Hold that space gently. Respond not with answers, but with presence. Say things like, "That sounds so hard," or "I'm really glad you shared that with me," or even just, "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere." These are small words, but they carry immense weight. The dying don't need us to be strong. They don't need us to be wise. They need us to be real, to be open, to be willing to sit in the dark with them and not try to turn on the light, because sometimes the light they need most is simply the warmth of someone who refuses to look away. In the end, the greatest gift we can offer is not our advice, not our optimism, not our effort to rescue, but our quiet willingness to walk beside someone exactly as they are, with love and without fear. That's what it means to offer true hope, and that's what it means to love someone all the way to the end. As we come to the end of today's video, I want to speak directly to your heart, especially if you're someone currently walking alongside a loved one who is dying, or if you've ever sat in that quiet, sacred space of goodbye. This conversation isn't easy, I know that. It touches the rawest parts of us, the fear of loss, the helplessness of not being able to change the outcome, and the deep ache of wanting to make things better for someone we love. But the truth is, sometimes the most loving thing we can do is not try to make it better. Sometimes the most powerful act of love is simply to stay present, to bear witness, and to let the moment be exactly what it is. What I hope you take away from this is that you don't have to say the perfect thing. You don't have to come up with words that will take away the pain. You're not failing because you feel helpless. You're human. And in these final chapters of life, what people remember most is not what we said, but how we made them feel. Did they feel safe to be themselves, even in their grief? Did they feel accepted in their sadness, their fear, their surrender? Did we meet them with truth, or try to cover it up with comfort? If you're sitting beside someone who is dying and you're unsure of what to do, take a breath. Ground yourself. Look at them. Be with them. You don't need to fill the silence. You don't need to have a plan. Just be real, be soft, be honest. Let them lead and follow with love. And if you're the one grieving or preparing to grieve, know this: your presence is enough. Your love, your listening, your willingness to sit in the quiet alongside someone who is letting go, that is a gift beyond words. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be there. This is what it means to love someone well at the end of their life, not by clinging to what we can't control, but by honoring what is sacred, tender, and true. Thank you for showing up today, for choosing to learn how to walk through this part of life with more compassion, more courage, and more humanity. These conversations matter, because death is not the opposite of life, it's a part of it. And when we learn how to be present with death, we learn how to be more fully present with life. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'll see you in the next video.